What's up, guys? Theo here. Going to be breaking down Silva versus Westin Wilson. So Silva is a Contender Series alum who is coming off of an upset against a hyped South American prospect in Kevin Vallejos. He beat Kevin Vallejos by a dominant decision, and now he is a minus 875 favorite against Westin Wilson. Westin Wilson is a guy who came in, took a short notice fight against Joe Anderson Brito, and got submitted very, very quickly. Obviously, he was outclassed in that fight, and he is like I believe, a plus 475 favorite right now against Silva. I was pretty surprised at the odds when I saw these, just because of how big of a favorite Silva is, given that he doesn't have any real fights in the UFC yet. That being said, I still do think he's the rightful favorite in this position, and I am going to pick Silva to win against Westin Wilson. For a couple reasons that probably their records won't necessarily betray. But, you know, Westin Wilson came in and clearly got outclassed by a really good guy, Joe Anderson Brito. That doesn't mean necessarily that he's bad, but when you look into the guy's amateur footage, he is pretty solidly leveled where he's at. I mean, even in his amateur footage and his pro footage before he was in the UFC, which he has a pretty long, extensive combat sports history, the guy, he's losing to anyone he fights that has any kind of merit. None of his wins are against guys that are any good at all. They have terrible records. Anytime he fights anybody that even has like D-level MMA name value so far, he has lost pretty badly, even against really low-level guys. And it's like guys that he's bigger than, taller than. So I think the reason that he is such a big underdog in this spot, despite the fact that he's probably longer and taller and has more fights, is the guy's just not very good. He really does not seem like he should be on the UFC at all. He's probably, based on footage, one of the lowest level fighters I've ever seen enter the UFC. And you compare that to Silva, who was an underdog against Kevin Vallejos and came in and looked really, really amazing. You know, one of the things that really stood out to me about Silva is when he was making his walk for his Contender Series fight, he came out, busted through the doors, and was like barking on his way, walking down into the cage. When I saw it, I thought it was hilarious. I couldn't believe it. And then when he got up into the cage, he like froze and was just like staring Kevin Vallejos down, and just was like walking slow. I mean, the dude he went in there turned up to 11. Sometimes you see guys and you can just tell that they are absolutely ready to go. Times I felt like that before is when Michael Chandler made his UFC debut against Dan Hooker. You know, he walks out, and you can just tell from the second he walks out, he's just ready to go, ready to explode, ready to fight. And that's how I felt about Silva when I saw him walking out for his Contender Series debut. And I had bet against him, and I got that terrible feeling in my gut when I saw him walk out, and just the way he was walking out, staring his opponent down, barking, acting crazy like that. I said, this guy's feeling himself right now. And when you're feeling like that, that's when you're feeling ready to kill. And he came out and he looked very measured, and he looked strong and patient, and he just looked good. He looked really comfortable and confident on the feet against a guy who was expected to beat him. He obviously didn't care. So I think this guy's got a little bit of that X factor that you kind of need in MMA to beat opponents that are more technically skilled than you are. So I really like him to win here. He's obviously not worth minus 875. That line is ridiculous, and it's just based on the fact that Westin Wilson is really bad, and this guy pulled an upset on a really hyped prospect. So don't bet him at minus 875. Maybe you could throw him in some parlays as a parlay leg or something. I don't know. I mean, you're gonna hear a lot of dumbasses tell you, oh, don't parlay gigantic favorites. If you're making parlays, you're already fucking up throwing your money away. So you look more dumb telling people not to put giant favorites in parlays. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're sitting here trying to make 2 to 3 leg, really smart parlays that are probably going to hit. Yeah, obviously don't put minus 875 guy who has no UFC experience in that parlay. Like, you would be dumb to do that. So it would be equally dumb to sit there and tell somebody that's making a 10-leg parlay, don't put an 875 favorite in it even though you think he'll win. Why not? Why not? Because it doesn't increase the odds very well. Your odds on winning a 10-leg parlay are ridiculously low anyway. So unless you're making smart parlays and you wouldn't be putting John Silva in them anyway, why would you not throw him in something? I think he is a pretty likely leg to hit. So you could do something like that with him. But regardless, I do think John Silva wins. Don't know how you bet this one. I wouldn't take a flyer on Westin Wilson. The guy just seems kind of shot, man. And I don't think he should be in the UFC. So give me Jean Lord Assassin Silva all day, guys.